And Coutinho scores. Sanchez scores.
Chelsea are champions.
Hello, I'm Dan Walker and this is the 5 Live Football Daily. On a big night for the Manchester clubs in the Champions League, Manchester City ended the group stages as winners after they beat Borussia Mönchengladbach by 4-2. A very different evening though for their red neighbours. Manchester United are out of the Champions League after losing 3-2 away at Wolfsburg. The game was watched by our commentary team of John Hartson and Alan Green.
It is the final whistle and it's all over for United. They've lost here in Wolfsburg by 3-2.
Yeah, they gave everything, Man United. Ultimately, they've gone out of a group that they maybe should have qualified for, but you know what? We say that. Were they good enough? Were they good enough? You know, the draw at home against PSV, you know, the defeat away in PSV, the defeat again tonight. You know, ultimately they've not accumulated enough points, but I thought they showed good character tonight, and they've met a really good front four who United defensively just couldn't cope with. Strangely enough, it's Naldo that's got 2 of the goals for Wolfsburg, who's playing centre-back. But it's a sad night for Manchester United. They now go into the Europa League. A club like Manchester United should be getting through to the knockout stage of the Champions League.
Particularly from a softish group. Final score here in Germany, Wolfsburg 3, Manchester United 2.
Thank you, Alan. Players walking off the pitch here at the Etihad as well. We'll talk about the significance of Manchester City's win in a moment. But John Hartson, huge emotional rollercoaster for Manchester United tonight. They took the lead. Great goal from Martial, wonderful work from Mata. They were taken back by Wolfsburg with some wonderful football. Had that opportunity at 2-2 with the own goal. Then the news comes through from PSV, and in the end they've been beaten by a very good German side, and the questions will be there about the manager, about the team, about the injuries, and most importantly about the future.
Yeah, that's right, and you know, I think you've got to question the recruitment as well. You know, the players that Van Gaal's brought in. You know, have they been good enough? Have they been Manchester United quality? You know, that's up for debate tonight. Defensively, you know, having got back in it twice, you know, they didn't know. Manchester United, they weren't quite aware what was going on in PSV. The crowd started to cheer. Obviously, a load of the supporters at Manchester United had brought were aware of the equaliser in PSV. And then United conceded sort of another goal, a sloppy goal where Carrick loses Naldo again. So defensively there's work to be done. Going forward, I thought they were excellent tonight. I thought Mata for the first goal was brilliant. Martial worked hard. Memphis Depay tried. You know, and I thought the character and spirit United showed was excellent. But really, United, they need a bit more quality all over the pitch.
If you're just turning on your radio, Manchester United are out of the Champions League. They'll be playing in the Europa League for the rest of the season. Good news for Manchester City though back here in the Etihad, because Conor McNamara, they turned up for the second half, much better 45 minutes, and they potentially top the group.
Yes, well, they do top the group, and Manchester City, I think they might just be warming to this competition. The fans booed the Champions League anthem at the start, and despite David Silva scoring early to put City in front, they then showed defensive frailty that we've become used to in recent weeks. And for a long time here, Manuel Pellegrini's team trailed by 2-1. Korb and Raphael both scoring for the Germans, massively assisted by weak at Manchester City defending. But then Raheem Sterling, who was playing as the main central striker tonight for Manchester City, he scored 2 late goals, just 112 seconds between his two, and substitute Wilfred Broney wrapped it all up with a fourth. Manchester City beating Borussia Mönchengladbach by 4-2, and now they will avoid the big guns in the next stage of the tournament, because they'll be playing against a team who finished second in the group, not the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas and the Bayern Munichs who top theirs.
In the past 2 seasons, Manchester City have been beaten by Barcelona. They won't get them this time round, so great opportunity for them to go deep into the Champions League this season, and a wonderful second half performance. Sterling, Silva, Bony and Navas all playing up front at one point. In a 10-minute spell, Manchester City really saw off Borussia Mönchengladbach, who had a very decent first half themselves. So the results then tonight: Manchester City winning 4-2 here at the Etihad, Manchester United losing 3-2 away in Wolfsburg, and their Champions League dream for this season has ended. We'd love to get your reaction to both games tonight. Anything you'd like to talk about, the number on 5 Live is 0500 909 693. We said before the game, don't just sit there and moan or praise. You might be a Manchester City fan who wants to say Pellegrini has finally worked it out in the Champions League. Your team are through, and they're through as group leaders as well. Are you a Manchester United fan who is continuing to question the work of Louis van Gaal? Are you a Manchester United fan who says he has to go? We have a couple on the line already. Let's say good evening to Danny. Danny, welcome to 5 Live. What do you want to say tonight?
Oh, where do I start, guys? Listen, Van Gaal, he's got rid of the identity that took nearly 55 years to build from Sir Matt Busby and through Sir Alex Ferguson. You know, it wasn't just tonight's performance, Dan and John. It wasn't tonight's performance. Tonight's performance was good. But to draw against CSKA Moscow, to draw against PSV, what does he need to do to make this team a better team? He spent over £250 million on this team, and we can't progress against teams that are mediocre. I'm sorry, Van Gaal's got to go. He's got to go. We've got to get rid of him now, right? And I don't care where we are in the league. That's a miracle that we're still within the shout of the Premier League. But to not get through this group, everyone was banging on about it when the group stages was announced. That it was an easy group. There's no easy group, and when you've got a mediocre manager, right, that wants to defend, and when we can't defend, right, we score goals, and when we score goals, we can't defend. It's got to stop, and we need to stop it now. I'm sorry that might sound like a rant, but I'm absolutely livid.
John Hartson's listening in. John, Danny's not happy.
I think the caller's got a point, Dan. I really do. I think Van Gaal, sometimes I think Man United fans came on at the beginning of the game and said, yes, you know, Van Gaal's the man. He's building, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's looking at the next manager, he's putting the foundations down. No, I don't agree with that. I just think Van Gaal is living on past reputation. Whatever he did at Barcelona, whatever he's done at other big clubs around the world, he's not doing it at Manchester United. The way that they're playing is not good enough. It's not accustomed to the United side that I've seen over the years, or even I played against. You know, you look at the recruitment, you look at Rojo, you look at Herrera, you know, you look at other Schneiderlin. You know, I know they've got some injuries as well. You know, you can look at, I think Martial will be a good signing. He's young, you know, he's blameless at the minute, Martial, because of his age. He gets away with it, if you like. Only the 1 goal tonight in 10 games. But as I said, I just don't think they've gone any forward from the David Moyes era. I really don't, and the amount of money he's spent has been astronomical. So the owners have a big decision. Do they let him continue to spend and they take a chance, or do they rip it all up and start again? I don't know how much money they've got to spend, the finances, but I agree with the caller. I don't think Van Gaal has cut it at Manchester United. That's the bottom line.
Well, that was Danny who gave us a call on 0500 909 693. You can also text us tonight, 85058, and on social media you'll find us at 5 Live Sport. Dennis says, massive clear out at Manchester United needed, including the manager. Useless, says Dennis. Absolutely useless. Daniel says, the defending from United has been absolutely dreadful. From a side that operates on a defensive strategy, this is appalling. Andrew, Manchester United don't deserve to go through. 0 attacking intent too often, 0 incisiveness, and 0 will to win. And Adam says, the last 10 minutes has had enough drama for a whole season. I love not being a Manchester United fan. I believe there's a smiley in that as well. Adam, thank you very much for that. We've got another Adam who's joined us on the line. John Hartson is here. We'll be joined by Henry Winter from the Times very shortly as well. Adam, do you share Danny's concerns about where your team are and where they're going?
Oh, I share it. And my main concern is actually not even the recruitment, which has been absolutely appalling. It's who he's let go as well. He's let people like Hernandez go, and tonight his strikers are playing. He's got Depay, he's got Martial. We look toothless. He's given Ashley Young a long contract and then picks kids instead of him. Injuries are happening. Is it because of the intensity of his training? And what I'm concerned about as well is we've got Sheffield United in the Cup, and I bet you we have the lowest attendance we've had in a long time because the football is dull. I'll say it on radio. I've got my dad tickets for a few games. I'm going to have to get him a new Christmas present because I actually quite like him. And watching this team is so horrendously dull. This man has to go. We've got Nick Powell playing. He wasn't even good enough for Leicester when they were bad. It's just horrendous. Even under David Moyes, we won in Germany 5 or 6-1.
Adam,
He's a fraud.
What about the fact that there are injuries? I mean, he's got Borthwick Jackson in there tonight. He's got Varela. You say he brought Nick Powell on for Mata in the second half. Do you fully blame the manager for all that?
I do, because if you give somebody £250 million, I think the injuries may be coming due to his training as well. But at the end of the day, Ashley Young was one of our players of the year last year. He's played left back and right back. Why isn't he playing? We've seen that Smalling's injured because he's probably played too many games. We have spent £250 million and only our goalkeeper would interest the top side after £250 million. And it's more the fact the style of football as well. At least tonight was interesting. I mean, well done to City. I'm actually pleased for them, but we are so dull and we're going nowhere. He has to go. It's time to go, Van Gaal.
Adam, what do you think the excuse will be tonight afterwards from Van Gaal? Will there be one?
Yeah, there will be. He might blame the fans again. He may actually just say injuries. He might blame the offside. He might just say we've been entertaining, unlucky, and we should have scored. I mean, on Saturday he said we should have scored goals when we only had one shot on target. He'll have lots of excuses. I'm concerned for Ryan Giggs, because actually, how can he sit there next to him on the bench as a winger and look at our team and see there's not one good signing? There's nothing to be excited about, and I don't see how we're going to improve. I'm so distraught watching it. I hope things turn around, but that's hope. And one thing I do hope is that when we play Sheffield United, the crowd vote with their feet, because it's so dull. If the manager doesn't change, the style of football has to change.
Adam, thanks for giving us a call tonight on 5 Live. 0500 909 693. Do you agree with Adam? I hope you find your dad another Christmas present as well. A bag of wine gums and a chocolate orange always goes down well, or whatever the result for your football team. Let's bring Steve Crossman into this, because Steve, we talked a lot about the games involving Manchester City and the game involving Manchester United tonight, but the broader picture for the Champions League, I know you've got to tell us about 74 goals that Ronaldo has scored on his own tonight, but let's start with Groups B, which includes Manchester United, and Group D. Just clarification of the standings and the results tonight, please, if you can, Steve.
So as we know now, Manchester City have won their group, and City fans, along with your own team, you've got Sevilla's Fernando Llorente to thank. I said to you at half-time, he was fighting a one-man battle against Gianluigi Buffon. Well, it was Llorente's header that won the game, so allowed City to top the group. Brilliant header against the club he left in the summer, and ironically, Llorente was discarded by Juve after they signed Paulo Dybala. Dybala had a great chance to get the equaliser, which would have won them the group in the last few minutes. He hit the crossbar. And as far as Manchester United's group, Luke de Jong, the former Newcastle striker, equalised for PSV against CSKA. The winner for them was a proper goal, quite literally. Davy Proper smashing the ball home from outside the area. But Dan, it's robbed Manchester United fans of a great story, because the CSKA penalty, which had looked like saving them, was won by an ex-United man. It was won by Zoran Tosic, and in the end it was in vain, but Sergei Ignashevich scored it. Try getting him in your Champions League poetry.
Right, yeah, that will be a tough one. I'm sure there's something that rhymes with that. Steve, as well as all that, we had Naldo scoring 2 for Wolfsburg, but Ronaldo outdid him, and he's outdone everyone who's ever played in the Champions League. He scored more goals in the group stage than anyone ever.
Yeah, at one point in the second half, he became the first man to ever score 10 goals in the group stage of the Champions League. And then a few minutes later, the first player to score 11 goals in the group stage of the Champions League. 4 in total in the game for him. Karim Benzema scored a hat-trick, but probably nobody is talking about that now. It finished 8-0, Real Madrid 8, Malmo 0. They'd won the group anyway. That equals Liverpool's record for the biggest ever win in the Champions League. In their group, PSG beat Shakhtar Donetsk 2-0. And Atletico Madrid have won their group. They won 2-1 away at Benfica, but Benfica go through alongside them anyway.
Thanks for that, Steve. The stat of the night that I saw this evening was that Cristiano Ronaldo, remember there's 32 teams in the group stage of the Champions League, Cristiano Ronaldo on his own has scored more than 23 of them. We know he's a formidable individual, and he's had a great night tonight. Real Madrid dispatching Malmo. 85058 is the number to give us a call. Is the text number, sorry. At BBC. No, hold on a minute. That's the other one. At 5 Live Sport is the one you need tonight. I should know these by now, really. At 5 Live Sport on Twitter. 85058 on the text. Jerry's got in contact. He says, even Moyes got United out of a tougher group stage. LVG is no good. The process is just empty talk. Time for change. Paul says, unfortunately, this is what I've come to expect from Manchester United. Can we now get a proper coach? Eamon. So are Manchester United fans really happy with excitement but ultimately a defeat? And Daniel would rather lose like this than draw 0-0 every week. John Hartson is still with us. Henry Windsor from The Times will join us shortly. And we've heard from Adam, who was miserable. We've heard from Danny, who was miserable. We've got another Manchester United fan who's given us a call on 0500 909 693. His name is Gary. And Gary, your mood tonight is...
Hi, good evening, guys. How are you? Okay.
Hi.
I'd just like to say it's absolutely an embarrassment that we've not got out of that Champions League group. It's not good enough. Van Gaal is to blame. He needs to go. There's no way we should have not got out of that Champions League group with the team we've got. And honestly, guys, it's just an embarrassment for a Manchester United fan like me. I've been to Europe with them when Ronaldo and everybody was in their team. I went to Barcelona. I went all over Europe with Manchester United when we were playing well. And Van Gaal, he just not got the team going. Not at all. Bad signings all over the place. And
Gary, let me read you a quote from Paul Scholes tonight. He says, Manchester United have not bought as well as they could have done. Proven goal scorers leaving the club, is where they failed. United should not be relying on a 19-year-old kid. That was Martial who scored tonight, John Hartson, but ultimately the game has ended in defeat to a decent Wolfsburg side who scored some lovely football. But as Gary and others have said, John, if you're a Manchester United fan who's been watching them for the last 10, 15, 20 years, it's just not good enough, is it?
No, nowhere near good enough. And as I said earlier on, I think Van Gaal, I think everybody's given him a chance. He's had all that money to spend and he's failed. I think he really has failed by going out to this Champions League. You know, it's a group where they lost the very first game against PSV away from home, failing to beat PSV at home, struggled to beat Wolfsburg, by the way, 2-1 in this corresponding game a couple of weeks ago. And tonight, you look at instances like tonight. You know, Paddy McNair played at the weekend. He started, and he leaves him on the bench tonight and plays Varela, a young kid making his Champions League debut. Then Darmian has to go off. Naturally then, you have to bring Ashley Young on, the one who's experienced. Ashley Young, we know, can beat a player, can get a cross in. He has to come on. What does he do? He brings on Borthwick Jackson.
So what's he thinking there, John? What's the thought process then?
I don't know. Maybe he's trying to make a point.
He's watching that and thinking, OK, this is Ashley Young's game. Now, we know the manager's got a plan, but it's hard to work that plan out sometimes, isn't it?
Well, maybe he's trying to make a point to his board. I don't know. That the fact that they need numbers and they need, and they're very short, but injuries have played a part. I also think, Dan, as well, I don't know what the Manchester United fans think. I think Schweinsteiger is a quarter of the player that we're used to seeing. That man used to boss games, get forward, score. He tires. He hasn't got the legs. He can only play in that sitting, holding midfield role where, OK, my dad could play there. My dad could pass it 5 yards to the right, 5 yards to the left. He doesn't boss games anymore. He got dragged tonight. He got brought off with 25 minutes to go. Manchester United can't afford to be a club that just give players a payday. And he's brought in Schweinsteiger, so he has to justify playing him. Now, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that Schweinsteiger has still not got anything to offer. But what I'm saying is he is nowhere near good enough in today's day and age, Champions League, Premier League, to take a starting role in that Manchester United team. They need legs. They need more power in there, in the middle of the park. And Schweinsteiger, for me, is not the answer. I can tell you that now. Looking at him tonight, he got dragged again. How often does he start and come off?
That's the
so I don't know what the
Hartson.
United fans think, but I don't think he's the answer, Schweinsteiger. I've got to say that.
Sorry, John, I cut you across there while you were still making a very valid point. John Hartson's with us until 10:30 tonight. We've also got Graham on the line, who's given us a call on 0500 909 693. Graham, John's picked a few holes and a few problems for Manchester United. How do you see it? Where are your team at the moment?
They've always been in transition. I mean, I hear somebody say, we let go of Hernandez too soon. I'm sorry, but you have to play to Hernandez's strengths, and that wasn't going to happen. I just wanted to say, really, that the squad has very little depth. Once you've got injuries, these things get exposed. But I was quite proud of the kids today. Ashley Young doesn't come off the bench because he's not a left back. had Varela come off, he would have played at right back, and I think Paddy McNair would have come on at centre half for Chris Smalling if they could have had 4 substitutions. They took a gamble by letting Van Persie go, and it left themselves short up front when they couldn't get a recognised player. But really, what they've tried to do is they've bought for the future in terms of Depay and Martial, and they're struggling to live up to it. If there was a loser tonight, it was Juan Mata. Given the number 10 role and yanked. I'm more concerned about Juan Mata and how he flips in and out of games than Bastian Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, didn't look very happy coming off either, Juan Mata.
Can I just say about the money?
Of course you can, Graham.
United have had to spend the money because they've been under pressure. They were looking to actually change the squad around, and they went for players which actually going to cost them a lot of money. Martial cost them 36 million because Monaco didn't have to sell. Madrid held all the cards with Di Maria. It was a gamble and it didn't come off. I'll tell you now, there'll be a lot more money spent. You'll be talking about close to $500 million come next year.
Would you give that money? Would you give that money to Van Gaal to spend, or would you change it now?
I'm quite happy because he's got the dirty job. It's okay for people saying David Moyes got them through a group stage, but he did it with a championship-winning squad. That's gone. 3 of that back 4 went in a year for a start.
But do you want to be in the position in 18 months' time? Because Van Gaal have said he's only doing 3 years. Do you want to be in a position like this in an 18 months' time, or do you think in the next 18 months he can put his stamp on the club and improve this disastrous time that they're having right now?
It's disastrous, but I don't hear anybody giving Wolfsburg and PSV any credit here. They're not mugs. People that have been on the show and said that PSV are mugs. I don't know what they're smoking. I would personally, if you're asking me, a man who's got a track record, somebody who's put more or less put Bayern Munich in the position that they're in now.
Okay.
That Heinkes and Pep Guardiola are now getting the benefit of. The Barcelona team. He gave Iniesta a debut. People forget this.
You're listening to the 5 Live Football Daily podcast. Jonathan Overend here, back with the guys in a moment. But let's remind you of what's coming up in the rest of the week on 5 Live Sport. On Wednesday, our Champions League coverage continues. 5 Live will be out in Greece for Olympiacos versus Arsenal. The Gunners need to win by 2 clear goals, or at least by 3 goals to 2, in order to avoid elimination at the group stage for the first time since 1999. We'll also be at Stamford Bridge throughout the evening for Chelsea versus FC Porto, where a draw will be enough for Jose Mourinho's men. Thursday, it's a 5 Live Managers Question Time special. Dan Walker will be at St James's Park for an in-depth chat with Tony Pulis, Sean Dyche and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Friday night, Mark Chapman will be joined by John Hartson, Jason Roberts and Rory Smith to preview the weekend's football. Saturday, our live commentary begins at Carrow Road as Norwich take on Everton, and at 3, switches to the Etihad for Manchester City versus Southampton. After 5, we'll be live in Paris as the draw for the group stage of Euro 2016 is made. And on Sunday, we round off the weekend live from White Hart Lane, where at 4, Tottenham Hotspur welcome Newcastle United. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
It was an exhausting night, but at the end of it all, Manchester City are through. They top the group after Sevilla saw off Juventus, but Manchester United are out. John Hartson is with us, Henry Winter is with us, and you can be with us as well. 0500 909 693, 85058 and at 5 Live Sport. On my way into the Etihad tonight, Henry Winter, I walked past a massive picture of you on yet another billboard, but you were watching Manchester United lose against Wolfsburg in the Champions League. They're out of that competition. It's Europa League football. We've heard from Adam, Danny, Gary and Graham. We've got Tony lined up, Henry. How bad was that for Manchester United tonight in your assessment?
Very bad. Only the 4th time they've gone out in the group stage, and in previous ones they're playing against teams like Barcelona in '94, with players like Romario then, with Wolfsburg are a good team, and with the emphasis on team, with a really superb player in Draxler. But when you looked at this group, when the draw was made, Manchester United were rightly confident of going through, and Manchester City were the ones who were saying, we've got another difficult group again. And it's City who finished top, and Manchester United who go into the Europa League, and it was self-inflicted. They should have gone for it more against PSV in the previous game, and they should have defended better here. Van Gaal's worked on this defence, and it's been probably his only successful unit during his time at Manchester United, but their marking, particularly at set pieces, was shocking.
He's not a man, Henry, who questions his methods, is he? I mean, he's not a man who looks at a problem and thinks that I'm the problem and the solution is for me to walk away from that. He never doesn't strike you as that. He's supremely confident, but he must look at that group: Wolfsburg, Manchester United, PSV, and CSKA Moscow. Manchester United, even with injuries, they should be going through in a group like that, shouldn't they?
Van Gaal is the type of man who looks in a mirror and winks. He admires himself. He admires his reflection. He admires his CV. He's done great things in his career, Champions League and league titles across Europe. But the important thing in this whole debate here, and Manchester United fans, some of them will have a go at him, a lot of them, the fans here will support him. The important thing is that Manchester United, the club, the board, the Glazers, Ed Woodward, they're going to back him. They see that he's got a job to do here, and it was highlighted tonight. I think one of your earlier callers was saying, the lack of depth in the squad. You saw that with the fullbacks problems. If you're having injuries in important positions, you need more options. So Manchester United will go again, and they will spend more in January. They'll spend more next summer as well.
Might be a vast amount of money. Let's bring Tony in. Tony, you're on 5 Live. You're speaking to Henry Winter from the Times, and John Hartson is here as well. What's the point you'd like to make tonight, Tony?
Good evening, everyone. The point I need to make, I'm absolutely furious. When Van Gaal was appointed manager, everyone was saying he was this great messiah. I've seen the Dutch team he had, and it was boring. I don't know. He's won the league with Barcelona and Bayern Munich, but they're top of their league every year. My point is, right, the biggest mistake he made was selling Danny Welbeck. A homegrown kid from Longsight, United through and through. Not good enough, weren't scoring enough goals. Danny Welbeck, would give you everything, 110% every single game. Sold him, not good enough, On the Angel Di Maria alone, he should have gone for that. He's persisting in going across Europe buying these name players, some young, some old, on big wages. They've not got the heart and soul of the club. They're not. You can't see Louis van Gaal going to Motherwell on a Tuesday night and taking a game of football in. You're just not going to do that. And if United want to back him, they're just going to be in oblivion in a few years, because he's going to absolutely milk it, because they're going nowhere. Every game this year, I can count on one hand the shots they've had on goal. Down the years, United have had great wingers. Where are they now? We've got none. We've got nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I agree, Dan. I agree with the caller. I'll tell you something tonight. United have got no width in the team. It's very, very narrow. Memphis Depay, his first thought is not to go outside the full-back, it's to cut inside and try and score a goal. Lingard's the same. They never get beyond the full-backs of the opposition. They never overlap. No width. 4-4-2. They went to 4-4-2 about 6 or 7 games ago, and they were excellent for a couple of games. They played 2 strikers in Rooney just off Martial. The movement was good. One was going short, one was going long. They've got no width. A blind man can see it, and there's not 70,000 people at Old Trafford, fans every week, all just making this up. There's millions of Man United fans around the world. If the Glazers want to carry on and throw their money down the drain, they must have money to burn. Because I tell you something, I wouldn't be giving the investment to Van Gaal to make an absolute hash over it over the next 18 months, because that's what he's doing at the minute.
John, Henry, John, you know Ryan Giggs well. Do you think? Everything that he embodied, attacking, wing play, going for it. He is sitting on the bench. He is assistant manager. Do you think he can be happy in a situation like that? Because he's clearly not having any influence on the manager, making the point that this is not the way Manchester United play.
Yeah, I think clearly, Henry, he wouldn't be happy. But I actually think as well. Now I don't speak to Ryan. I'm not in touch with him regular. But I also think as well, how much input is he actually allowed to have? how much of the sessions does he really take, or does he just set the cones up, make sure the balls are pumped up, have a little word with Van Gaal here and there on the bench, rather than Van Gaal saying, I tell you what, Ryan, you give us an input, you do the team talk, because you know what, you're the next manager of Manchester United. Van Gaal has come out and said that. He's training Ryan Giggs up. So how much influence Van Gaal actually lets Ryan have? But Ryan Giggs must be thinking, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? Beckham, I know they don't have the Beckhams. I don't like going back to great players of previous eras, because this is the now. We have to act on the now, not the then. But Ryan Giggs, I'm not too sure actually how much involvement he's allowed to have with Louis. I think Louis van Gaal is quite stubborn.
One of the jobs he gets Ryan Giggs to do is to work on the opposition. He said that earlier on this season. But that's Louis van Gaal then. We want to hear from Louis van Gaal now. So let's dip into the post-match press conference. They've lost to Wolfsburg. Here he is.
That's difficult to understand when you defend so well normally. So I'm happy that we have scored, but I'm not happy that we give 2 times within 2 minutes a goal away. So I have to analyze that, why that is happening, because normally we are very good in that aspect of football.
Ihre Gedanken für das Spiel? Ja, es war ein verrücktes Spiel. Wenn man sich die Situation anschaut, ich meine...
You're listening to Louis van Gaal's post-match press conference. We're going to stay for another question. You can hear the question being asked in German. Obviously, it's in Wolfsburg. I expect there'll be a translation at the end of the question, so you can try and decipher exactly not only what the question is, but then listen to the answer from the Manchester United manager.
Für uns, dass wir nicht genug Tore geschossen haben, und wir müssen daran arbeiten.
The last matches that we have played, we didn't score goals. Now we have scored goals, 2, but also maybe the cancelled goal. So that's the difference between.
Okay, in den letzten Spielen haben wir nicht unbedingt Tore geschossen.
I'm afraid my German doesn't extend far beyond Wie komme ich am besten zum Bahnhof, Henry Winter, but you hear there a manager who's not particularly happy, and it doesn't seem like he knows where to point the finger. He's certainly not pointing it at himself.
No, he's not. He never would. He admires himself. He probably reads his CV and sort of highlights the great moments in it every morning over breakfast. But I come back to this point that we can criticise him, and everyone is criticising him, right? And you can understand the frustration of the Manchester United fans. But the fact is that the club, all the signals from them is that they are going to back him. So what do they do now? John's earlier point about Ryan Giggs, is he frustrated? Personally, I think that Ryan Giggs should leave the club and should go and do what Gary Neville's done and go and develop as a manager and get his hands dirty.
Go to come back, develop. Henry.
Sorry?
Go to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Will he not be worried then, though, Henry, if he does go and Man United think and they appoint somebody else in his absence if he's gone on? Because you can't just go. People are saying about Gary Neville coming back. Gary Neville's just signed a 6-month contract. If he does well, by the way, he could extend that. There's no guarantee that Gary Neville is going to give up the job at Valencia just to come back to Manchester United. Gary Neville may feel he needs more experience in the dugout.
But they do need him more experience. And that's why I think Ryan Giggs has got to go and sort of develop it. He's done his pro licence. There is a very intelligent... You saw it when he was caretaker manager for 4 games after David Moyes. They played with width. John was talking about this earlier. He played with youth. James Wilson's now gone out on loan. Tom Lawrence played. He's now gone. He's been sold. So there's a disconnect between in the dugout, which Manchester United have got to address. But I think, it'd be great to see the class of 92 in the dugout, but really they need to go and get the experience, which Gary Neville has admitted.
The texts keep coming in. James says Manchester United were unlucky tonight. If only they didn't have all those injuries, I think they would have had a different result, but they do have a chance in the Europa League. So James is putting a positive spin on it. We'll get another caller on in a moment. I've written their name down on a piece of paper and then thrown the piece of paper away. Jason is his name, but Ian in Rochdale. I don't blame LVG. He does exactly what it says on the tin. Blame the man who appointed him. That is the family who have destroyed the Manchester United ethos. Jason, we wanted to get some fans on from some other clubs tonight, but Manchester United understandably are dominating things. What do you think of the position your team find themselves in tonight? Where do you lay the blame?
Hi guys, clearly a very disappointing night. I do think we have made some progress under Van Gaal, but if we're going to turn this around, then he really needs to start acting much more like a Manchester United manager. He said the other day that United didn't have the quality to win the Champions League this season. I don't want to be hearing that as a United fan. I don't think the players want to be hearing that a few days before a must-win game. He said at the weekend that we would score if we have players like Aguero and Suarez in the team. Well, if our only solution is to buy those type of players, then frankly I could be Manchester United manager. At some point, Van Gaal does have to take responsibility for the decisions that he and Ed Woodward have made. I think it's fantastic that Jesse Lingard is in the team. If you've got a young winger like Lingard in the team, why have we sent Januzaj off to sit on the bench in Germany? Why are we putting all the burden on Anthony Martial when we've cleared out Wilson, Welbeck, Hernandez? I wouldn't be surprised if Van Gaal turned around and said, we need a fullback in January. Well, why have we sold Raphael for pennies? At some point, he has to take responsibility. He did have players like Massa, Di Maria, Van Persie, Rooney. You have to be able to deliver them, make them actually deliver in a system. And when we're on a must-win game and the players need to be a bit of a lift, I don't want him sitting hiding in the dugout with his clipboard. I want him on the touchline, sending a signal to the players, send a signal to the fans. That's what Fergie would have done. It's what people expect a Manchester United manager to do, and I hope that's what he's got to do now to get us out of this slump.
John, Henry, he's not a Manchester United manager. He's not acting like one.
Dan, what was interesting is that one of Van Gaal's great strengths at the World Cup is the impact that he made with his substitutions for Holland games. I think about at least 3 or 4 of their goals came from substitutes. You look at his substitutions and say, OK, some of it was forced by injury, but why is Nick Powell coming on? Last time I saw Nick Powell for Manchester United, he was totally out of his depth in a League Cup game against MK Dons. He comes on, so why doesn't a Pereira or Ashley Young come off the bench and really have a go at Wolfsburg? Because Wolfsburg were slightly rattled. There were gaps opening, and Manchester United could have gone for them. They couldn't just rely on what was happening with PSV.
Jason makes some good points there, John, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he does. I thought he did make some good points, but I've already said, Dan, I just think I don't think they've made progress since David Moyes. I really don't. They've gone out of the Champions League tonight. They scraped into the top 4 last season. They're already out of the Capital One Cup this season, losing to Middlesbrough. And I feel I would change it. I would change it now. If you're going to give this man more money to spend, I really don't. I think his recruitment has been poor. He's not brought in the value for money in terms of what he's spent and the quality of players. Why buy 2 or 3 players for 15, 20 million? Why didn't you go big on I know he bought Di Maria and it didn't work. Ultimately, sometimes they don't work. But the big names out there, the Bales and the other big names around the world, the Lewandowskis of this world. These type of players make a huge difference, and they're Man United players.
But why would Manchester United get Lewandowski? Why is he going to leave Bayern Munich, where he's on a lot of good money there? He's got a winter break so that he can pace himself during the season. Why are they necessarily going to get it? I think the one superstar, to back up your point, that they could conceivably get in the long term is Gareth Bale if he wanted to come back to this country. You could see Gareth Bale at Manchester United.
Stephen McNamara has got in contact on social media, says Van Gaal calls it a philosophy, I call it boring football. Get Seamus Coleman and get rid of LVG. Moyes was better. Thank you for that, Stephen. 85058 at 5 Live Sports. We heard a little bit of Louis Van Gaal with a bit of German thrown in as well. I think we have the full English chat to the press now, so let's have a bit more from the manager who knows his team will not be playing in the Champions League for the rest of this season.
Louis, it's not just about tonight, it's the whole group. How can you explain a team like Manchester United has failed to get out of this group?
I have said in advance that this is a tight group, and you see at the results that we have made, but also our competitors, that it is not what you think, that it is always Manchester United that finish the group as first or second. And I have to say that we were not so lucky in a match today with the decision of the referee, but also in the first match we were not very lucky with the decision of that referee. So when the group is tight, then that kind of decisions can decide about that you are going through or not.
So some tough questions for Louis van Gaal to answer. Tanya is another Manchester United fan who's given us a call tonight on 0500 909 693. Tanya, you've heard from your manager, you've got Henry Winter and John Hartson listening in. What do you want to say tonight?
Right, first of all, I agree wholeheartedly with what John Hartson said, because, first of all, he's killing the club. He's let players go, like was said earlier, and not only that, the reason why a lot of players have gone, because he's had fallouts with them. If you don't do what he says, you're gone. And, you know, players have even said that since they've left United. They said they didn't want to leave. It was just because of Van Gaal. And the thing is, I would not give that man any more money, because he's just making a mockery of the club. We're not the club we used to be by attacking. And even the other day, when I heard the match on the radio, he actually said afterwards on 5 Live, he was asked the question, what do you think about United fans shouting attack, attack? And he said it's unnecessary. I'm sorry, it's not. The United fans go to watch a match and they expect a lot better than that. I don't say, you know, we'll get there in the first whatever, but you play better than that. And the thing is, he's telling them where to play. They don't have any say in it. I know a while ago, the players went to him and said they weren't happy with the way that he was asking them to play, but he still wouldn't change it. And I feel very, very sorry for Mata. Why did he take Mata off? And why did he leave Smalling on when the poor guy's injured? That's just asking for more trouble and time out for when for him to even come back.
Tanya, thank you so much for giving us a call tonight on 5 Live. Henry, do Manchester United fans just have to prepare themselves for a bleak few years?
I think one thing you'll see probably over the next few days is a few headlines with Ancelotti's name in it. He's been doing a series of interviews in which he's indicated his enthusiasm for English football. He enjoys the life over here, enjoys the life in London, and he was talking kindly about Manchester United earlier. It's quite interesting down there. Loads of Manchester United fans are having their photographs taken with Sir Alex Ferguson as one of the Glazers sort of skulks in the background. I think the Glazers have got to look at themselves in terms of the money that they've taken out of the club. Look, they've invested at times, but this is a squad that still needs more.
I think as well, Dan, I think if we're not careful, if Manchester United are not careful, I think half of them, or some of the Man United fans, have been brainwashed by Van Gaal's sort of the influence he has on this great football club. The way he just brushes off poor in recruitment in some of the players who are nowhere near good enough to play for Manchester United, in my opinion. And I just think if they're not careful, they will be brainwashed. I think they need a change. They can't give him any more money, because I think he's making them. I just think he's messing it all up, to be honest with you, and I think they need to make a change.
The mowers are out at the Etihad, not quite the standard of the US Masters when they all sort of come in formation over the hill, but there's 5 of them, and they are mowing the pitch, which to see Manchester City beat Borussia Mönchengladbach 4-2 tonight. They top their group after Sevilla saw off Juventus. Let's find out what Manuel Pellegrini thinks of it all. So does topping the group make the rest of the Champions League a little easier?
No, I repeat, I keep exactly the same, my same mind, in the sense that it's better to finish first, because you can avoid important teams in one stage more, in the round of 16. After that, if you want to win a title, you have to play against biggest team. I always say the example when I was in Malaga and everyone wanted Malaga, and Malaga continued. So it's very important in the moment you arrive to the round of 16. Of course, it's better not to play in this stage with Barcelona, with Bayern, with Real Madrid, but that doesn't mean that you are now in the next stage, because you don't play against those teams. It's important to play in the way we did in the second half in Europe, and we can play against every team.
Manchester United fans have dominated our Five Live Football Social tonight, but delighted to say that Jim has joined us. Good evening, Jim, a Manchester City fan who must be happy not only with the last 45 minutes of the game tonight, but also with the campaign so far, Jim.
Indeed, Daniel. Listen, I want to make a real quick point. Okay, lots of things. Here we go. We're 3 points off top of the league. Other than Leicester, we will be champions, okay? FA Cup, we're still in it. League Cup, we're in the semi-finals. We've just won our group for the first time ever in the Champions League. All I can hear is criticism about Manchester City. We're not going to do anything this year. We're underachieving. We're the only team of the big ones, the supposed big ones, who are doing anything. Arsenal, United, I mean, Chelsea. I mean, look at Chelsea. I mean, it's ridiculous. Look at the state of what they are in. I mean,
Jim,
look at us.
Jim, if you were having a great season in this season, surely if you were much better than the others, you'd be well clear at the top of the table, wouldn't you?
Listen, it's been disappointing. I agree with you, Dan. It's a very good point. It's been a disappointment for me, but all I'm saying is I think the negativity should be targeted in the right place. I think that actually we're doing okay in this season of and I love it. I would actually love it if Leicester won the Premier League. I would love it if they won the Premier League, and I would love it. I think everybody else would feel the same, and I would, if we win, for example, the League Cup and nothing else, that'll do for me. But we're through to Champions League. United aren't. They're supposedly the big club in Manchester. I think we're in there. Everyone's going, oh, yeah, City have to worry about Real Madrid and Barcelona. What are United worrying about, right? No, they're worrying about Thursday nights. That's what they're worrying about. So I'm not worried about that.
Jim, thanks for giving us a call on that. I want to bring Henry Winter in on that. Are we too harsh on Pellegrini, Henry?
I think a little bit, yes. He is the charming man, as the fans' banner says. I mean, he doesn't really say much in press conferences. There's obviously a very intelligent individual there, the engineer, as they call him, but he doesn't really give us much. So, the media is not going to sort of build him up as we often do with, or have done with Mourinho in the past. But, he's calmed things down post-Mancini. He's won titles. He's got them out of a difficult group here, as he should do, with some good players that he's got. Sterling, I didn't see the game, but apparently Sterling scored a good goal and he's played well tonight.
He did, he set up Silva in the first half, which was one of the few good things that Manchester City did, Henry, and then he was impressive in the second 45.
Good, and it's great to see Silva back as well, because he's one of the, with Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, is one of the most beautiful players to watch in the Premier League. We don't have too many superstars. But look, this is a crazy league this season. Manchester United only 3 points off the top. Leicester are top. It's very, very fluid. So Manchester City could win 2 or 3 trophies this season.
Got to bring you some breaking news tonight, gentlemen. Nothing to do with Manchester City, nothing to do with Manchester United, everything to do with Liverpool and Daniel Sturridge. Simon Stone can bring it to us. It's not another injury, is it, Simon?
It is indeed, Dan. It's more bad news for Daniel Sturridge and Liverpool. Daniel Sturridge is going to be out for several weeks with a hamstring injury that he felt during the defeat at Newcastle on Sunday. He's been for a scan. The scan showed that there was a slight problem. It's not a long-term thing. He's not going to be out for a huge amount of time, but it will put him back on the sidelines. And when you consider he's only made 6 appearances this season, he's already had knee and foot problems. It's the last thing that he would want.
Thank you for that, Simon Stone. So another injury for Daniel Sturridge. John, we know he's a great player, but he's a great player when he's fit, and at the moment he's just not fit enough.
Dan, I don't think that's breaking massive news that Daniel Sturridge has got a little hamstring problem. I actually think it's not bad news, to be honest with you, because I think he can rest. He can rest up, he can get his hamstring 100%. He'll have 2 or 3 weeks on the sideline to get massages and treatment and come back absolutely flying. I think this is an opportunity to take him out of the team and obviously recover from his hamstring, but also recover and get all his other injuries sorted out. So, yes, it's a blow. Of course it's a blow, because he's important for Liverpool, he's important to England, he's a top-class player. But I also think as well, having come straight back into the side in the last few weeks, It's something had to give, if you like. It's not a recurrence of his old injury. It's a hamstring, because sometimes that happens when you're out for so long and you work so hard to get back. You find then other parts of your body, you get little slight niggles then, and I feel this is a little niggle, so I don't think it's massively upsetting news. I think Liverpool will be okay, and it gives him a chance to get himself right.
But John, don't you get those sort of little niggles, those little injuries after about 8 or 9 games when you've been back? The fact is, he's only been back for 2 games. It's quite early to start picking up little niggles.
Yeah, but he's very explosive, Henry. He's an explosive type of player. I wouldn't know because I wasn't that quick, so I never did a hamstring. But what I would say is he's very explosive, off the mark. That's his game. Playing on the shoulder, getting in behind. So I'm not surprised that it's his hamstring or maybe a calf, maybe or something like that. But in this sort of instance, it's his hamstring.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you tonight on the radio. That's Henry Winter of The Times and Big John Hartson, who enjoyed his commentary tonight. It's worth listening back to. He was breathless on occasions, but an amazing game that's seen Manchester United lose to Wolfsburg by 3-2. If you've just joined us on 5 Live, they're playing in the Europa League from this point on, but Manchester City go marching on in the Champions League. They won the group tonight, which means they should avoid some of those big boys when it comes to the draw for the knockout stages. Just to update you on all the scores tonight before we hand over to Phil Williams. UEFA Champions League first up, Group A, PSG 2, Shakhtar Donetsk 0, Real Madrid 8-0 winners over Malmo, 4 of those scored by Cristiano Ronaldo. And in Group B, PSV 2-1 winners over CSKA Moscow. We know that Manchester United lost 3-2 at Wolfsburg. In Group C, Benfica 1, Atletico Madrid 2, Galatasaray 1-1 with Astana. In Group D, Manchester City 4-2 winners over Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Sevilla 1-0 winners over Juventus. The northern section of the Johnson's Paint Trophy semi-final, Fleetwood have beaten Morecambe 2-0. In the southern section semi, Oxford 3-2 winners over Yeovil, and Millwall winning 2-0 away at Southend. In the Vanarama Premier, a win for Southport at Gateshead by 1-0, and Eastleigh beating Macclesfield away 2-1. Scottish Cup third round, Dumbarton 5, Alloa 0. Scottish Cup third round replay, Annan Athletic 1-0 winners over Inverurie Loco Works. And Scottish League 1, Peterhead 2-0 winners at Forfar. And Queen's Park also in the Scottish League 2, 2-0 winners at East Fife. So, an eventful night. Here's the question, going forward, can Chelsea and Arsenal join Manchester City in the knockout stages? Mark Chapman will be here on Wednesday with commentary of Olympiacos against Arsenal. We'll keep you updated from Stamford Bridge, as well as Chelsea take on FC Porto, and the small matter of Gary Neville's first game in charge. Valencia face Lyon as they try to make it through to the knockout stages of